Do you think landlords should be open to being lenient on rent in a crisis like this, pending proof of lack of employment? Why not? My landlord in Seattle offered to defer rent if need be. I like her. Seattle's mayor just banned evictions for the next month. Pointless. Trying to evict someone takes months and adds cost when you factor in any legal fees. That's just the mayor winning favor due to the public's ignorance. It's also a deterrent to landlords to attempt that sort of thing. May not be an effective policy, but is effective in changing public discourse. Are they also going to defer mortgage payments for those landlords who aren't getting paid? People always paint the landlord as some fat cat. But the vast majority of landlords own a single unit and depend on that rent to make their mortgage payment. My country did the same, but also froze all property taxes and mortgage for 3 months to pass coronavirus. Did they also freeze the interest on the loan or just payments? Yep, also the interest. It will just stop and resume after 3 months. For rent you are supposed to pay it, but if you can't you can get in contact with the government and they will cover it, or negotiate to push the rent for 3 months like with loans. The landlord can't kick you out during this time. We don't have strong protection laws about the renters if you don't have a rental agreement. Also they introduced laws to stop companies and individuals price gouging and medical producers exporting without a special permit just so there isn't any shortage on our country. First time is a massive fine, and if repeat you have to close for 6 months. of business and more extreme measure will follow. All non-essential businesses are to be closed. Clubs are live streaming the parties lol. They also issued a weekend mandatory quarantine and ban on all personal cars. Friday to Monday all need to stay home. All work was cancelled. It's been crazy, but we are a small country, and having 46 people confirmed is scary. Our government is very shitty, but they are handling this very well. Stay safe. PR plugged it. The government issued a new law that after 6 PM, if you are outside you'll get fined. This is countrywide. Wow. Which country are you in? Stay safe. Albania. We were one of the last to get the COVID-19. All the infected people came from Italy or were in contact with someone that was in Italy recently. This would be a huge strain on our healthcare, so the government is taking extreme measure to stop the virus. My rent was due to go up $100 this month. Just got a notice on my door that due to the coronavirus, the owner of the property is delaying the increase for 2 months. It's not anything spectacular, but it's something, and I appreciate it. That's really nice honestly. It is. It's a tough one. The landlord might not necessarily be wealthy and their own job might be in peril. Lots of landlords count on rental income to pay the mortgages on these properties or others also. So really any help they can offer is very much appreciated. The banks shouldn't be foreclosing on mortgages either though. We got a notice to vacate because the owner's son wanted to move in 6 weeks. Like 3 days ago. I mean on one hand it's fine, on the other, finding houses is hard enough in the best of times. Add a virus on top of it. It's going to create all sorts of issues. I think you're entitled to compensation. Check up your real estate laws, because in Canada you can't get kicked out unless you agree. Almost certainly not. New Zealand has some pretty shitty rental laws, although the current government is slowly working on it. Think the notice period is going to be moved up to 90 days instead of 6 weeks to put it in line with other things, but it's totally legal, although kinda shit for us. I recently gave someone notice that I need a rental property for myself and my family by end of March 21st. 1 year to find a new place is plenty of time in my opinion, and the fucker is still taking me to court. How long were they in the property for? Personally I do find rentals to make home rather than just a house. I could see if someone was in it long term that they had make it a home become rather apprehensive to move out, i.e. as an emotional response, but yeah, a year is kinda crazy to not have more than enough time to prep. Allows you to prep for the potential financial burden that comes with moving. I don't know if they have a similar bond system where you are from, but that can easily be several grand here. Lenient on rent. My landlord is going to have people in and out of my apartment all week. Trying to sell it. They're going to steal your toilet paper. It's entirely possible. The economic effects of this virus will be felt for a long time. Creating a wave of homeless people will not help the situation. Creating a wave of home foreclosures will not help either. If only there was an entity that was supposed to help citizens and prevent catastrophes like this. Yes, like a group of people that collect taxes and help all the citizens in a crisis. Not just the well-off or wealthy. HMN. I guess everyone is supposed to be rich because that's totally possible. That tax money is for war. Keep your hands off. Not all of it. Just most of it. It's the first thing I told my tenant. I'm not rich by any means, but I won't starve if she pays 2 months late because of the crisis. PS I'm in Italy. The world needs more landlords like you. Thank you. She has a small kid I think is just the least human thing to do. I'm in France. We have a law here that forbids removing someone from their rented home during the winter months. Last week President Macron just extended that grace period for another 2 months. Edit. By now I have seen countless versions of the "but what about the landlords who have bills to pay? Please stop asking this and go through the thread as I've answered it a few times. I don't expect to answer it again. Edit 2. Upon request. Here's one of them. Link. reddit.com/r/should_you_think_should_be_should_should_being/fkn9obx/. So do a lot people just stop paying rent during the winter? Probably not. Since I imagine, if you're 3 months past due come spring, your ass is getting thrown out. So if someone is already planning on moving out in the spring. I'm not sure what it's like in France, but in Australia you would get blacklisted and no major real estate rental companies would touch you. LJ Hooker alone has over 130,000 properties that they manage. You would find very few owners actually rent direct, and they may very well ask for a rental history or reference anyway. Depends on the bank. Landlords usually have the place mortgaged, so they need to pay the bank bi-weekly. If the banks would be lenient then it would be possible for the landlords to be as well. Then you have to factor in monthly hydro/water if these are included in rent. Unless these companies are also lenient then all this would be coming out of the landlord's pocket. Edit. 1. I'm seeing a lot of misinformed accusations with obvious lack of knowledge. Owning a rental unit does not mean you do not owe money on it. It is likely mortgaged and the rent goes to paying that mortgage for the rental home too. It is a long-term investment. No one is making money from the rent. It goes to pay all fees needed to make it a rental property. Mortgage to pay the bank. Emergency funds for repairs etc. 3. Pretend you own a home instead of renting one. You still have a monthly fee to pay to the bank unless you own it outright, which means the bank says fuck you, pay me. 4. I live in Canada and these are the rules that are needed to be followed if you do not want your mortgage defaulted on. And landlords aren't all megacore. Some landlords own one property and are also eating shit on the monthly cash flow. Ask me how I know. Edit. In my experience, I'd have to drop rent to a low amount to find tenants that aren't fucking losers. It's a nice new condo, but god damn it, the retards I've had in there sucks ass. There are millions of awesome tenants, but I'm convinced that there are far more tenants who are deadbeat losers that I want nothing to do with. They have shitty jobs, their credit is beat to shit, and they have the IQs of goldfish. I'm able to avoid this by renting for $200 less than market. My current tenant is fucking awesome. My landlord is a good guy and uses my rent to pay for his own mom's rent at a nursing home. He can't afford it otherwise, and my rent doesn't even completely cover his costs once you factor in taxes and insurance. Edit. Just to clarify, landlord has a day job to make up the difference. It pays for his own mortgage/fees and the fees on this house. Mortgage is paid for. He uses my rent to pay for his mom's rent. TBH, it doesn't really matter what he uses my rent for. I just happen to know cause has a friend. In the end him living in a house he owns and he responds very quickly to problems. My parents own property overseas, and in order to avoid landlords overcrowding apartments, you have to register all living tenants in the apartment. My dad decided to rent it out to a reasonable group of subcontinental workers because they face discrimination for, well, being from the subcontinent. Turns out they sublet to others, and now my dad isn't allowed to rent the property out for another 2 months, so no rent for 3 months, has to pay a fine, and has to renovate the place, painting plus cleaning. This has put my parents in a lot of financial stress since they were using that money to pay for me and my sister's uni fees. What is the subcontinent? India. We should have a system in place that doesn't depend on the charity of landlord to avoid homelessness. When the shit hits the fan, some landlords will be lenient. Some won't be able to afford to do so. Some can but won't help. But as a whole it won't make enough of a difference. I'm a landlord and fall into the won't be able to afford to category. I'm not a corporate owner. I simply started renting out my home when I moved out. The rent covers the mortgage and that's about it. I'm not making bank on this. Tenants don't pay rent. I can't pay mortgage. I could swing it for a couple months maybe, but that eats thousands of dollars into my personal savings. Maybe I should be more generous. That's very possible. But it's all a lot more complicated than landlords are greedy, although I'm sure some are. I've done my fair share of renting, and some landlords suck ass. Everyone advocating for a temporary halt on rent is also advocating for a temporary halt on mortgage payments and interest accrual. Well, if the house that is rented is mortgaged, if he don't get paid if can't pay the loan, then the bank might do it anyway. But in all fairness, the banks need to stop all payments of loans for a month so that extra money circulates around the economy. I understand that would have drastic effects on the financial institutions, but food in the mouth and a roof over the head has to come first. It is kind of weird that someone has to suffer and it will end up being the people who have the least. I would appreciate any business, person or company that makes an effort to split the suffering. I think this time is a bit different. You already see some strange companies stepping up with paid time off and other deferments, such as Uber and Walmart. I think it's because they realize they have to. Homeless people don't come back to work, much less shop. This entire situation is a big fucking deal, and the fact that gig companies are ponying up for contractors to take a break should tell you a lot in today's business climate. In the US, some 80% of folks are paycheck to paycheck. Most businesses and companies aren't shit without 80% of the population who currently works suddenly dissolving. Everyone needs to realize we have to get through this with as much of us intact as possible, or we won't get through it. That includes your business / rental property / whatever else. It's good PR from a company's perspective, since we're gonna probably be in a lockdown like Italy soon. These companies know that if they offer worker benefits, that the workers will be more likely to return to their same job, as well as the general public seeing these companies in a more positive light than before. San Jose is putting a pause of evictions due to loss of hours due to corona. I'm all for it. But it's not like they won't still owe the rent afterwards. Puts the renter in a huge hole, but they still will have a place. Landlords are kind of screwed. Wonder if this means the bank and or new owner can't evict in a foreclosure too. Some landlords won't be able to pay pretty quickly. Sucks all around. Ideally the landlord can apply for mortgage payment deferral too, and everyone is, well, less screwed than they could be. I'm a landlord and live in the fourplex I own. I know one tenant will be fine. She works for a non-profit social service agency that will be in operation. I'm really worried about the young couple we have. They just barely met the income requirement when we rented to them, and now they are expecting a baby in a few weeks. I really can't afford to not collect rent from them, so we've decided if he is out of work we will offer him some. One unit is currently vacant and being repainted, etc. The sooner it's generating income the more relaxed I can be for them. A couple of weeks ago I went out and did a huge COVID-19 shopping trip. Toilet paper, canned goods, etc. I did plan to have enough to share if necessary. If my mortgage bank would give me a break I would definitely pass it on because karma can be a bitch. People forget that landlords are people with bills and families of their own to take care of. They wanna demonize them because they have this idea that they should get a house for free just for fucking existing. But honestly, that's not how it works. Your house is a good that you pay for, just like food or booze or mechanics or whatever. My landlord is fucking struggling. He has been great to me in terms of rent increases. I pay the lowest in my building because he understands I'm a single mom of 2 kids, but I still have to pay it. He owes a mortgage and property tax on my building. The city is fucking screwing him on taxes on the new building he built. He has mortgages plus property taxes on everything else he rents out, and his flow of income is never guaranteed. He basically has to trust that we'll come up with rent every month so he can make the tax and mortgage payments. Plus he provides free water to all his tenants, so has footing probably huge water bills on every single property he owns. Has not a douche bag. Has not a demon. Has just a guy trying to make a living for his family in the real estate market. Yes, landlords should, but they also should get leniency from the bank as well. Yes, but it needs to go further up the chain. Landlords have to pay their mortgages, taxes, and utilities, and they need to be given grace as well in order to prevent the burden to simply be shifted to them. Homie, I wanna hear in the us. I hope they develop a program that allows leniency in a time like this. If you're renting a home from Joe Blow down the street, his mortgage payment is still due. So if he's lenient with you, what happens to him? A program needs to be developed that will allow both wiggle room in a national crisis. I don't know how to achieve that. Taking a portion of our taxes and actually saving them up for a rainy day would be a good start. I'm not huge into politics, finance, etc, so my response may be a bit naive. We do have many funds, stockpiles, for almost every imaginable scenario. I understand, as an example, South Korea is testing more people for COVID-19 daily than the US has total. We are behind schedule with that, supposedly for vigorous testing purposes, etc. I'm using that as an example. We do have funds, national waiver programs, state programs and so forth. I don't know if rainy day fund is the way the nation's finance/treasury debt sees it. I hope the government is able to dig deep and figure out a program to help the small business that will be hurt in this pandemic, and whomever else is majorly affected, which is nearly everybody. I have read they are putting money back into the stock market, having MACUP classes at the end of the year for schools that are closed. My son is missing 6 weeks and only making up 2 at the end of the year, so there is a waiver program that allows to skip the 4 weeks somehow. I'm just hoping for the best, and we can band together as a community, state, nation to make the best of a terrible situation. No, the onus should be on the government for situations like this. A lot of landlords are people just like you and I, and even if they aren't, you can't expect a business to just eat costs for the next few months. If this disaster brings about any positive changes, I hope drastically increasing social safety nets is one of them. I gave my tenant 1 month free and cut rent by 30% effective immediately. Good guy. I absolutely think my landlord is scum, but he gets paid because he gives the product/services agreed on a handshake/my word. When I lost my last job, I applied for gov assistance immediately to start the process to get his rent to him, and I wrote a short, polite email telling him the situation. When rent day came, I had enough to pay half, and by then had information that within 2 weeks, I would probably get welfare, so I sent him a copy of that paperwork, then made myself apply for any work at all every morning from 8 AM to 1 PM. My tiny savings were gone, and it was scary. I received 1 welfare check, and got a job, and on the right track again. If I need to do this again, so be it. But he is much less of a prick to me now, so it isn't that he should be lenient. But he likely will choose to be. I'd take you as a tenant in a heartbeat. Communication is the least you can do. Not only that, but you're actively trying to better your situation. Almost everyone struggles in a recession. Putting people on the street in a pandemic will lead to more rapid spread of the disease. These are not normal times. Think of the public health first, not business as usual. Not only should landlords should not collect rent, but banks should not collect mortgage. Landlords have montage to pay and utility bills to pay. In 2008, we taxpayers bailed out banks, and we have also bailed out utility companies, so all payments to them should stop as well. I have money in the bank. I can pay my bills, so I should pay them. If someone can't, then my paying my bill will make it easier for the companies that I pay my bills to be lenient. That's how I felt about paying taxes. I was proud to contribute to food stamps, road maintenance and schools. Pandemic like this showcases why a connected society cannot stay the way it has been. Massive social reforms are needed. I think the real issue is if the landlord has a loan on the property. Personally, I believe all the loan/mortgage/credit companies should have to cease for the moment. But capitalism is a true political party of most countries. Nothing will tank the economy faster than credit drying up. That's what the Fed is desperately trying to avoid. I'd like to also point out, if renters are evicted as a result of society essentially shutting down, who do the landlords think will move in afterwards? Not sure many people are going to be apartment hunting during the pandemic. Seems as if they wouldn't be making money either way. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.